Hi, wonderfully created. Welcome to CreatedIAm. In the last video, we created a basic skirt block, link below or any clickable area on the screen. In this video, we're going to look at adding allowance. And then in the next video, we're going to use our block to actually create a skirt. So subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you know when that's uploaded. We're actually going to start off by drafting the back of the block first. The front and the back allowance are slightly different, so stay tuned for tips and use the chapters and timestamps in the description box to go to exactly where you need. Grab a piece of paper that is big enough to contain your back block. If you have 5 centimeters all the way around, you've definitely got enough space. You want to decide whether or not you want your block to be straight down or if you want your pencil skirt shape to be tapered in. I folded mine in along the blue line and the red line so that it's nice and tapered. But if you want to, you can just fold it along the red line if you think that's all you need. By folding it and not cutting it, it allows me the flexibility and allows you the flexibility to use your pattern piece in a different way later on. Once folded, weigh down your piece either with sewing weights or with any other things you have lying around the house. Start at one corner and carefully with your pen, pencil or marker, trace all the way around. Then mark down the key points such as your hip. I put 2 dashes, which I'm going to connect later. And then, of course, the dart. Grab a ballpoint pen or any sharp pen that you can use to poke through. Either poke through both layers, or the easier thing would be poke through the first layer so that you can create a little dot at the bottom layer. It would be also good to poke through the middle of your dart so that you know where the center line is. Once you've poked through, you can then remove your top basic block and then connect the various points. Find the 2 points you marked on for the hip and also connect that with your ruler. So that you can use this pattern a bit more effectively, it will be good to mark down the key features, the zip, where you cut it, as well as the measurements that you use so that you can adapt this easier later on. Now we can add the allowance. On the side of the block for a skirt, I like to add 2 centimeters. This is because this part of the body can vary right now in the moment based on whether you're sitting or standing, and in terms of weight change and life, it can also change a lot. 2 centimeters allows the flexibility for adjustment. Now if you want it to be fitted to your measurements, you can just make sure you use the whole 2 centimeters for allowance, but it allows you to undo it later if you need more space. At the waist, we are just going to use a 1 centimeter allowance. We don't need as much. Take your ruler, leave a 1 centimeter dash, and then mark various points. Then you can connect it with a French ruler, with a normal ruler, or freehand, depending on where you are and what suits the piece. After I connected the top, I connected the side. Because this part of the side of the skirt is straight, I use my straight ruler to help me. So we still need to do the bottom and the zip. At the bottom, I give myself a 4 centimeter allowance, but to be honest, you can give yourself a 2 centimeter allowance. I give myself a 4 centimeter allowance because I do like to fold it in quite a bit using a 2 centimeter hem, and sometimes I might want the length to be slightly longer, so I like that room, but 2 centimeters should be fine. Now for the zip side or the cut side of your back, I definitely advise you to use 4 centimeters. It gives you that flexibility to attach your invisible zipper or your normal zipper, whatever you choose to use. Take your ruler and mark 4 centimeters at various points, and then you can connect that to create your allowance. For the back, we folded it in so that the skirt was tapered in, so make sure not to draw a line all the way down. Actually track your 4 centimeter dashes and then connect it appropriately with a ruler. And there you go, you're pretty much done. Grab your paper scissors and cut that out. And it might be good for you to make a note that you did taper this in, because by just looking at it, you might not remember, so that you know which piece to use based on the piece you're sewing. So now it's time for us to do the front. Make sure you have enough paper with room around it for your front block. You want to also bring in the side, so I folded mine along the red dashes just so the lengths match up when you sew it. Once you've done that, you're going to weigh down your piece. This time when tracing, I'm going to use the dot technique, so I'm going to put a dot at all the corners of my block. This will then make it easier to trace the straight sides. Once you've marked the corners, take your time with your marker or pencil to trace around the side of your skirt and also the waist, the top of the skirt. Of course, make sure that the piece does not move. We're going to finish the side and the bottom in a moment, but at this point I'm actually going to move over my key measurements. So I'm going to move over the dart, poke through it just like last time. I also marked on the key points on the waistline from the original. Again, as you know, you might not need this, but it's good to know where things were in case of adjustments later. We can now finish the bottom by taking the bottom corner of the side and matching it to that point we marked on, and then doing the same thing for the center of your skirt by matching up the points. You could have freehanded it. I'm just showing you another way to do it that's a bit easier. I popped my block back on because I needed to mark on the hip. I could have done this before, so you can see the flexibility of the order here. Once you've done that, write down the key points for you to know, center front where the fold would be. Then let's add on the allowance. At the bottom, you're going to maintain the allowance you use for the back. I use 4 centimeters, so I'm going to maintain that. If you use 2, then maintain that. At the side, I'm also going to maintain the seam allowance. Mine was 2 centimeters to give me room for adjustments, so I marked that all the way around. At the waist, you're going to mark on your 1 centimeter. You can see I'm matching up that 1 with the line, making sure the 1 is parallel with the line, the dark line, and then marking the 1 centimeter before then going back to connect it up with a straight ruler, freehand, or a French ruler. You do not need to add any allowance to the center front because that's normally put on a fold so that this part we are drafting will open up to be doubled and create the whole of the front. Once you've done with all your allowances, you're going to cut out your piece. Mark on the key features, put on the measurements if you so please. And that's it, guys. You've now drafted your front and back basic skirts block with allowance. The good thing about having a basic initial block without the allowance is you have the flexibility of adding the allowance on paper or on your fabric directly. Now, depending on how you work, you might find doing it straight on the fabric faster. But the benefit of using a paper piece to add your allowance first is 1, you can adjust the initial shape and add different details before then deciding the allowance. And by doing it on paper, you have room for error. And also, once you've created your piece, you can then go back and adjust your pattern based on any amendments that were needed, and you have that ready for the future. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you know when the next video is dropping. Continue to add your useful comments. It's great to see the community grow. And of course, follow me on Instagram at CreatedIAm. Remember, you are created with a purpose, so you are wonderfully created.